How's it going? Welcome back to another majestic video with your host, Savior. Now today I'm very excited because finally we can take a look at Cyberpunk 2077 Reborn, okay? Now it's finally the game that we all wanted it to be, and I'm just so happy because I always felt that this game deserved so much love. Cyberpunk 2077 always had the potential to be one of the best games ever made, and I still think to this day that it was always a good game.
Where's your cute little ass rushing off to?
Papers.
Imagine a 10 out of 10, a super hot girl, okay, a model of high class, okay, but she goes to a dive bar and some redneck just pukes all over her, okay, then no one wants to touch her. That was pretty much Cyberpunk 2077. It was always just a beautiful looking game, an amazing story, deep, complicated characters, and it had a nice philosophical backstory to it. It made you question, it made you think. It was for a mature audience, but it was just covered in tons of puke, okay? It was just absolutely disgusting, and no one wanted to go near it. They wanted it to go back into the streets where it belonged because, Jesus Christ, Cyberpunk 2077 on release was complete and utter trash, but finally, it has been fixed, and I personally think Cyberpunk 2077 was playable and was already polished pretty much after the patch with edge runners. And can we just quickly take a moment to remember edge runners and how much that show transformed Cyberpunk 2077 and how it made us all crippling, depressed drug addicts. If you want to be a part of a community of wise intellectuals and not complete madmen, then make sure you do subscribe because we are trying to do something legit on this channel and I would appreciate it. It does only take 2 seconds, and if you want to fight back against the dystopia and the corpse in our own modern times, then join the channel. And the final quick plug is do consider checking out my cyberpunk music that I make on Spotify. My new album Nova is out now. If you loved the music from Cyberpunk 2077 and the soundtrack, then you will absolutely love my music. Please give it a try and listen on Spotify. Now let's get on with this Phantom Liberty review.
You're a punk, Harry.
Looking to upgrade, Mr. Potter?
So I'm not going to be talking about the 2.0 update. I made a separate video about that, so check that out. I will cover all of those details. This is exactly what you get with the DLC and what you need to know. So that's why I'm calling it the Phantom Liberty review, because basically I'm telling you absolutely everything from everything that I've done. I've looked at so much research, so you don't have to. The only thing that I'm basically missing out in this review of Phantom Liberty is the spoiler stuff because I can't talk about it. One thing that Cyberpunk doesn't exactly have is much variation in its locations. Yes, it does have the apocalyptic nomad desert and then you have Night City, but that was pretty much it. And of course they are always beautiful to look at. Night City is just the best city in all of gaming and all of fiction, if you ask me. You know, it's the closest thing that we've ever gotten to living in the world of Blade Runner, and it's absolutely amazing. But now with Dogtown, this is basically much more apocalyptic than dystopian sci-fi. It does truly feel like you are living in, for example, like a Terminator city in the far future, because it feels that oppressed and just like apocalyptic instead of, you know, dystopian sci-fi, where we are basically all heading to anyway in real life, because corporations and governments just love to take away all of our freedoms, and social media is literally just a mind control device. Oh, but I'm not here to talk about that, am I? So what do you actually get in Phantom Liberty? Well, basically you get new weapons, new vehicles, new quests, new side quests, and new gigs. Also, you now have a Radiant quest system. Pretty much, if you've played Starfield, you will know the tracker boards where you can just take random quests. Now, Cyberpunk has something similar where you will get random gigs. The DLC adds its own massive storyline, side quests, and like I said, this new Radiant quest system, so there's a lot to unpack here. And of course, there are tons and tons of new items. I think there's over 100 new items that you can fiddle around with. And the big thing that most people haven't talked about is this is trying to rectify some of the RPG elements from the base Cyberpunk 2077 game. And basically, in the main story at least, there are more choices, okay, compared to the base game. Nothing absolutely groundbreaking. This is now a much more detailed RPG when it comes to, player agency, and I talked about that in my 2.0 video, how much the update radically changes, how you play the game and what kind of player build you want to be, because there's so many different play choices now. But that's for the 2.0 update. This isn't exclusive to the DLC. There are added things in the DLC, which I'm going to talk about, but there are new story moments basically that give you more player choice, so it does feel more like a fleshed out RPG. Because now there's so much more content, they've actually raised the level cap in the DLC to level 60, which is very good because it means you won't be, putting this down anytime soon because there's a lot to do. And if you just want to live and breathe Night City, then that's perfect because this game, it deserves your attention. And so do I, so subscribe, by the way. So we get new awesome finishers and animations that just make this game, feel even more next gen. And because this is utilizing next gen and only next gen, the graphics of Dogtown and just the detail just looks far better, and they really managed to push the limit. So one of the cool things that is completely exclusive to the DLC is the new Relic Tree, and basically with whatever upgrade, whatever cyberware that you have, if it's gorilla arms, if it's mantis blades, if it's monowire, whatever it is that you play as, whatever build you play as, if you're trying to be a super soldier and you've got these upgraded legs and you just go around bashing people, and now you can literally chuck them around, pick them up and throw them around with the new skill tree. Or if you want to be, a quick ninja type, or if you want to be the best night runner in Night City, that is now an option as well because they completely overhauled absolutely everything. But that's more to do with 2.0. But something that is exclusive to the DLC is the Relic Tree, and this is so cool because it's basically a special ability that is tied to each one of those cyberwares. So for example, gorilla arms has a special ability for the mantis blades, and this is so cool. And I love the details here where you get this cool blue visual effect around your cyberware, and it just makes you feel like a complete badass, and it's very overpowered, so you can't use it often. So some of the new Radiant content will be stuff like airdrops, where you have to get to the supply drop before the enemies do and then fight a bunch of enemies when you get there. Or, kind of little hidden side quests where you have to go and investigate something and something might go sideways. Or there's stuff where basically you're just collecting vehicles and stuff like that, but they're not tedious, okay? Some of them aren't exactly very interesting, but they're not all tedious. And I just have to say that I do think that Dogtown will just be a super immersive place. And the reason I absolutely fell in love with Cyberpunk 2077 to begin with wasn't just the gameplay loop, because yes, the FPS combat is satisfying now, the build complexity is super satisfying, this is one of the best, deeper RPGs, first person action RPGs out there with this new 2.0 update. But the reason why I absolutely love Cyberpunk 2077 and why I managed to binge all of the content after the Edgerunners update, because that's when it was most playable, was simply because of the interesting characters, the lore, the universe, and the deeper themes of relationships and transhumanism and technology integrated with society and living in a, dystopian world where corporations have more power than the governments and stuff like that. That was what was super interesting for me. And if you want to hear me talk about that more around, transhumanism and the philosophy of it, then I did make a Cyberpunk 2077 analysis video. And the cool thing about Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty is you will basically be able to form deeper relationships with existing characters, for example like Johnny Silverhand or other characters that get kind of integrated within the main quest and stuff like that. It's a game that asks questions, and it's a game that asks, what is your meaning? When you have limited time on this planet like V does, what is your purpose in life, especially in a society that, doesn't care about your existence, that wants to use you and basically only sees you as a consumer and just a simple number in the system. What do you do with your time? So basically at the end of the day, you get more Cyberpunk 2077, and that's not a bad thing because you get more interesting quests. The side quests and the gigs especially are more interesting than they used to be. They are more varied, deeper mechanics, and with all of the changes with 2.0, this will just change the game and make this feel truly immersive. And finally, people will be able to see past the glitches and the bugs, and they'll be able to see that Cyberpunk 2077 truly is one of the most important medias of our modern time, because with the rapid rise of technology and society integrating with technology, we have to ask ourselves, what is our place as humanity as we transition into a more symbiotic relationship? And I just love the themes of Cyberpunk and how it deals with the human morality and what it means to be human at the end of the day. So yes, Phantom Liberty is definitely worth it. It adds all of this stuff, which is way more than most DLCs ever add. This is more than just a DLC in my opinion, and I covered pretty much everything that you do get with Phantom Liberty. So I do hope you enjoyed this Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty review. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day, and remember, if you hate mega corporations just as much as V does in Cyberpunk, then join the channel and subscribe, because we will fight back against any future dystopia in our own modern world.